And welcome into the big hit, ladies and gentlemen, right here on IUP-TV. It may be April Fool's Day, but this is no joke. I'm your host, Joshua. We're going to begin our show by crashing the boards in Division I college basketball. The Final Four is here. Our analysts are going to give you their national championship picks, and we're going to look at how each team has gotten to where they are at. And then it's the Pirates preview, ladies and gentlemen. As you can tell by my very festive polo right now, we're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates. What an opening day for them. We're going to be looking at prospects, and we had an opportunity to sit down with some of them during their Pirates caravan stop right here in Indiana. And then we'll move it to the penalty box as the push for the playoffs is on. Who are the contenders? Who are the pretenders? Who's getting in? Who's going to be looking on the outside looking in? All coming up in the penalty box. And of course, Sean McCarthy, fresh out of the SmackDown Motel in the 2-minute drill. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the big hit right now. And welcome into the big hit, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to start this show off on the right foot, crashing the boards. Division I college basketball. What a crew joining me for that. Kelsey Howell and Malusi Kitchen. Guys, after over 5,200 games played this season, we have finally reached the Final Four. And real quick, just going to go through the teams that have got there. Of course, the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, the Florida Gators, have made it. They've defeated Albany, Pitt, UCLA, and Dayton to get to this point. And they are really considered the favorite amongst the experts and amongst Vegas to win the national title. And let's move on to who they're going to play. And that is the Connecticut Huskies. What a run for them, an improbable run led by Shabazz Napier as they defeated St. Joe's, Villanova, Iowa State, and Michigan State. 3 really good teams at that back end of that run for them. And their title odds are considered to be 10-1. And let's move on to the Wisconsin Badgers, the #2 seed. They defeated American, Oregon, Baylor, and the #1 seeded Arizona Wildcats to get to this point. Frank Kaminsky really leading the way for the Badgers. Their title odds are listed at 5-1. And finally, rounding out the Final Four is the Kentucky Wildcats. They defeated Kansas State, Wichita State, Louisville, and Michigan in what many consider to be the toughest region, the Midwest region in the NCAA tournament. Julius Randle leading the way for the Wildcats. Their title odds are listed at 3-1. And guys, just want to ask you right now, which team's road to the Final Four were you the most impressed by overall?
The team I believe that was most impressive was Kentucky Wildcats. And the reason for that is because they had the hardest road to the Final Four, beating Wichita State, beating Louisville and Michigan. In those games, those teams are probably considered #1 seeds, even though their overall seeds wasn't as high as they were. But Kentucky went through a tough gauntlet and got through, especially the freshman class. Since their main 6 players are all freshmen, they really stepped up and showed their skill.
Yeah, Kentucky I think, definitely had the toughest road to get to the Final Four. The way they started out the season and throughout the season, you could see that, they were freshmen. They didn't really have that chemistry like some veteran teams like Michigan State and some others. But coming into the tournament, you really thought they were going to struggle. But, throughout this tournament, they have proved themselves time and time again. The Harrison twins, Randall, they've all stepped up and played big in the moment and kept their team alive. So I think they definitely had the toughest road with, Louisville, Wichita State, and Michigan. They definitely proved themselves against the tougher teams in the tournament. So they did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. And Louisville was a #4 seed in this NCAA tournament, but I think we all know they were much better than that, and they knocked off Wichita State, of course, a 1 seed, and Michigan was a 2 as well. Really nice job by the Wildcats as John Calipari reaches his 5th Final Four. To this point in the tournament, though, who is your tournament MVP in terms of players? Because there are plenty to choose from.
Shabazz Napier, because he's been playing by far. He has the Kemba effect going. Like a couple years ago when Kemba Walker led UConn to the national championship. He's playing just as well. He's averaging 23 points a game. He had 25 in the last game. And with the national championship on the line, big players step up, and he's been playing the biggest out of all of them. Well, along with Frank Kaminsky, he's also been playing well.
I'm going to have to go somewhere different. I'm going to go with Aaron Harrison. I think he has definitely shown his maturity as a player, throughout this tournament. And the play I'm going to point to when he hit the game-winning three, just this past in the Elite Eight, just a big-time shot for a freshman. Definitely stepped up to the moment. And he, I think all of them together, but I think he really has come into his own as a player and stepped up in the moment.
Yeah, the Harrison twins have been playing really well. Like, all the freshmen have been stepping up.
Yeah, there are plenty of ways you can go for this MVP award. A lot of great individual performances. But let's get into the games that will be taking place this Saturday, April 5th. The first game is going to pit the Florida Gators, led by Billy Donovan, against the UConn Huskies, led by Kevin Ollie, second-year head coach for the Huskies. And a rematch from earlier this year. It was actually Florida's last loss coming at the hands of the UConn Huskies on a Shabazz Napier, who else, buzzer beater. Let's get a quick preview of this game and who will be the key factors for you to win this game, and what do each of these teams need to do to win the game?
A key factor will be stopping the point guard play, because Shabazz Napier and Scotty Wilbekin are the best two players for the teams. Even though Patrick Young can play a big role, the 2 point guards can control tempo and control pace, especially since it's going to be a close game. I think Napier will probably most likely play better, but Florida has more deeper squad, so I think that Florida will come out with a win, but it's going to be good point guard play from both of them.
Yeah, I think the key for the game for UConn, I definitely think it's the point guard. Shabazz Napier is obviously the catalyst for that team, so he gets their engine running. And if he has a big night again, I definitely think it's going to be tough for Florida to contain. But I think where Florida, their greatest strength is that they have a balance of scoring. They have multiple scores that can give you double digits. So if they can contain Shabazz Napier and to like maybe under 20 points, I think that they have a chance to win, because UConn didn't beat them by that much last time. I think the score was only like 1.64 to 63. So I think Florida has a chance to win, but it's just going to come down to whether they can contain Shabazz Napier.
And Michael Frazier, he's Florida's probably best three-point shooter. If he has an explosive game, he hasn't had one yet this tournament, but if he has an explosive game from three, it's going to be a good game.
Absolutely, guys. And really, we'll see if Connecticut in this magical run will be able to continue. Of course, that game tipping off at 6:09 Eastern Time on TBS. Let's move to the next game of the night on Saturday, pitting Bo Ryan and the Badgers against John Calipari and the Kentucky Wildcats. Same thing applies. Who are the keys to this game, and what do each team need to do to get a win in this Final Four matchup?
The matchup between Julius Randle and Frank Kaminsky, because Frank Kaminsky has been one of the most dominant players in the tournament, and Kentucky has one of the best offensive rebounding teams. Wisconsin defense is one of the tops in the nation, so I think the post game and the defense will be most important. Offensive rebounding is very key. If Kentucky can get on the offensive glass against Wisconsin, they have a great chance of coming out and going to the championship.
Yeah, I think for Wisconsin, they're one of the best defensive teams in the tournament, and they specifically in defensive rebounding. So they get second chance opportunities and stuff like that. So it's going to be hard for Kentucky, who is an offensive team, transition and stuff like that. If like you said, I think the Randall matchup between Kaminsky is going to be definitely a tough challenge for both of those players. But if Kentucky continues to play the way they've been playing, I think they have a chance. But you have four scorers from Wisconsin who can give you, like I said, double digits, just sharpshooters. They like to run the transition game. So for Wisconsin, I think it's their transition. For Kentucky, I think it's if they play together and keep playing the way they have, I think they'll be fine.
Absolutely, and this matchup again tipping off at 8:49 Eastern Time on TBS. Wisconsin looking to become the first team since 2000 to win both the Big Ten championship and the national championship as well. But with that said, we've looked at these games. Let's get your winners, and also who do you have to win the national title, taking it one step further?
Well, I have Florida beating Connecticut because I think Florida overall team I think is better and more polished, especially with the seniors on the team. They're well stocked. Wisconsin, Kentucky, I had a hard time picking because I believe Wisconsin has the defense and the coaching to get to the national championship, but I think Kentucky is hot right now, and the hot team usually wins in the tournament, so I'm going Kentucky, and I have Florida beating Kentucky. It's going to be a tough game because they already beat them 3 times, and usually you don't beat teams 4 times in a single year, but I think Florida can pull it out.
Yeah, with the Florida-UConn game, I have Florida winning. I think they're definitely going to come out on top. I think they're just a more balanced team, and I think they're going to be able to, I don't think Shabazz Napier is going to be able to carry his team throughout the whole entire game. I think he's going to wear all. So I have Florida again in the national championship. Then for the Kentucky-Wisconsin game, I'm going with Kentucky. I believe in these freshmen. I think they faced enough adversity throughout the season, throughout this tournament, that they're going to step up and rise to the occasion. And it seems that whenever they play, the bigger the moment, the bigger they play. So I definitely think that this is going to be a challenge for them with this Wisconsin game. And I'm going to go with Kentucky winning it all.
Okay.
Absolutely. Going to be one wild ride. It's been that to this point for sure, and should be a lot of fun to watch. Of course, this Saturday, tune into TBS to watch those games. The Final Four from Dallas. Thanks a lot, guys. Crashing the boards, Division I college basketball, Kelsey Howell and Malusi Kitchen. Coming up during the break, I'm going to hop aboard the Cole train and motor on over to the other side of the studio because we've got our Pittsburgh Pirates preview when we return. Stay tuned.
Want to learn more about IUP-TV? We have the solution. IUP-TV is now online on Facebook. You can find us by simply searching Facebook for IUP-TV. Once you click like, you can check out your favorite shows on our IUP-TV showcase, view our broadcast schedule, get updates on everything about your favorite station, and tell us how much you love your favorite shows. IUP-TV, not like other stations.
And welcome back into the Big Hit. Before the break, I said I was getting on the Cole train. I just hopped off, and it is now time to talk about your Pittsburgh Pirates. It's the Pirates preview right here for the 2014 season. Before we get too in-depth with our analysts here on set, we're going to show you some interviews that we were able to obtain when the Pirates caravan stopped here at Indiana. We're going to start with the voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates play-by-play man, Greg Brown. And welcome back in here to the Big Hit here with Pirates play-by-play man Greg Brown here on the Pirates Caravan stop in Indiana, PA. Greg, thanks for doing this.
My pleasure, Josh. Thanks for having us.
And your passion, you really have an unbridled passion for the Pirates. You can tell by listening to your broadcast. What did that playoff run last year, really a great season, one of the best seasons in a long time, mean to you personally?
You know, Josh, I've been asked that a lot, and it's great because people really are sincere. They say they were happy for me. But I always bring it back and say I was happy for the fans. I was happy because I've been on my soapbox for decades saying that this area is as good a baseball town as any in the country. And people would always scoff at me and say, no, it's a football town, it's a hockey town, it's a Penguin town. I'd say, no, it isn't. This is a town that embraces winners. When the Penguins weren't winning, they didn't go out to games. I was one of the fans that used to go. There were 2,500 in that arena. When they started to win, there's a passion for hockey. And kids started to play hockey in Western Pennsylvania. Football, Steelers have a great winning tradition. People come out and support them when they win. The Pirates, when they won in the early 90s, they came out and won. But for 2 decades, they lost for 2 straight decades. I firmly believe that what they needed was a baseball-only ballpark, which they got at PNC Park, and a contending team, which they got last year. And so I'm almost selfishly, it was, like I was proven right for the first time in my life. I'm wrong most of the time. But that's what I embraced more than anything else. It was fun, but for years I've done games not thinking about the losing of the past. When I do a ball game, and I think most broadcasters would say the same thing, they do the game that night. They don't think back about the years of losing. So whether it's July, when the team, for a while they were well out of first place, I don't even think about the standings. I'm doing the game. Same was true even last year. Once the game takes hold, you're doing the game and trying to tell that story. So for me, again, long-winded answer, but it was just fun to see the fans embrace the team.
Absolutely tremendous. I was listening to highlights, and your Pedro Alvarez call in Game 3 was truly tremendous. This year, Pirates, really, expectations are a lot higher. What are your expectations for this team?
I really don't know if I have any right now, Josh. It's early. I think once spring training starts, we know the makeup of the club. We don't know it yet. There have been some improvements. I just trust Neil Huntington because of what he's done. The Pirates general manager, I just think he's the best. He's proven that he can put a contending team together. And so I don't think we should doubt them. I think the team will be as good, if not better, than last year. We didn't have Garrett Cole at the start of the year in the rotation. We will now. We didn't have Charlie Morton at the start of the rotation. He was not there till late June. Francisco Liriano didn't join the team until 5 weeks into the season. There's 3/5 of your rotation that wasn't there, you know, many of them the first half of the season, that will be there. And of course, it always starts with pitching. So for that reason alone, I think they'll be in good shape, and I think they have a good chance of winning the division.
Absolutely. This is a very good ball club, top to bottom. One of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. Greg Brown, pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh.
And we will be here with more Pirates players. Indiana, Pennsylvania, the next stop for the Pirates Caravan. And there was our interview with Greg Brown, the voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Our next interview was with Pirates left-handed relief pitcher Tony Watson. And welcome back here to the Big Hit Pirates Caravan, stopping here at Indiana, here with the 6'3" Tony Watson. Quite a height differential with me. Tony, a great year for you guys. What is the typical offseason like for a Major League Baseball player?
The first thing you do is go home and rest, find the crease of the couch. That's what I do, and you know, just kind of recover from the whole season. It's a long season, you know, 162 games, but they don't factor in the 30 in spring training as well. And this year we were fortunate to go play in October and go to the playoffs. So, you know, it was a lot of fun. And but you go home, recover, take about a month off or whatever you need, basically, to get your body back, and then hit the weights and hit the training. And right about now is when guys will start throwing. I know some guys that are here at the Caravan who brought their gloves along, and we're throwing in the parking lots and whatnot, trying to loosen the arm up. We like to call it throwing grenades, basically, right now. Just shoulders a little stiff still. So, but from there, January into February, we'll report around Valentine's Day down in Bradenton, and spring training will start, and we'll get ready for opening day.
Yeah, expectations very high for you guys. What are your expectations personally going into this upcoming season?
I mean, I always set my goals big. You know, I always, you know, want to be one of the best in the game at what I do, and to be able to do that would be able to help the team out. And ultimately, our goal is to win a World Series, bring a World Series to Pittsburgh, and I feel like we're capable of doing that, especially after last year and the guys that are coming back. I know a lot of guys are hungry for this offseason into the 2014 season and looking forward to it. So, you know, our goals are, as a team, just to go out there, and as an organization, to go out there and bring home a World Series.
Yeah, very good goal, and the Pirates definitely have the pieces in place to win a World Series. Tony Watson, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We will have more Pirate players to interview right here on the Big Hit, the Pirates Caravan in Indiana. Of course, we want to thank Tony Watson for that tremendous interview. We were then able to talk with utility infielder of the Pittsburgh Pirates, number 5 himself, Josh Harrison. Back here on the Big Hit Pirates Caravan here in Indiana, here with utility infielder Josh Harrison. Josh, thank you for doing this. Really a good year for you guys, a playoff run. What is the offseason like for a typical Major League Baseball player?
It's very short, to be honest. We got done playing the middle of October, and most of us take about a month or so off. And, you know, by this time, most of us are working out, and come early February, we'll be right back in spring training. So it's typically short. You take your time off, but as soon as you get a little bit of that, you go right back to working out and you're ready for the season. Yeah,
and really, it's funny. Baseball season never ends. People say that, but it's really a true adage. You guys signed Clint Barmas to a 2-year deal. What is it like to have a veteran guy like that in the clubhouse helping out infielders such as yourself?
It helps a lot. You know, me and Jordy Mercer and, you know, Pedro Alvarez, we're all pretty young guys that came up through the organization. And for guys like me and Jordy, you know, Clint helped a lot because we really didn't understand the grind of going through a 162 regular season game. And at the same time, you know, Clint's been to the playoffs. Some of those guys have been to the playoffs. So we were able to, you know, they took us under their wing and, you know, taught us a few things and just helped whenever we needed it.
Absolutely. For young guys such as yourself and Pedro Alvarez and Jordy Mercer, a playoff run had to be very exciting. I bet Clint was definitely a calming influence for you guys. Josh Harrison here, utility infielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pirates Caravan here in Indiana. We'll be right back. Want to give our thanks to Josh Harrison for that interview. Our final interview is with the man who chose Let It Go as one of his walk-up songs for this season. backup catcher Tony Sanchez. So let's go to that interview right now. And welcome back here with one of the coolest dudes, if I do say so myself, of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Tony Sanchez, Tony26 Montana on Twitter, very funny guy. And Tony, it was a great season for you guys. It was your first year with the big league club. What's the offseason going to be like for you guys here?
You know, it's strenuous. You got to get a lot of work done in order to repeat the success that we had last year. You got to go to work, and you got to get back on the grind. You know, for me individually, I've been up 6 a.m. every day. You know, we drive to the gym, we run, work out, hit, throw. It's from 6 a.m. to about 3. You don't finish till then. And, you know, you're sweating the entire time, but you're putting in a lot of work just because you know how much fun it was last year.
Yeah, putting in the 8-hour days to clinch that World Series. You guys definitely have the young core to do it. The Pirates had traded for Chris Stewart, backup catcher. You have 2 veteran catchers there to help you along. What's that mean to you?
You know, it means a lot. I've been lucky enough to have, you know, great catchers come through Pittsburgh and help me since I've got there. Unfortunately, we let Mike McHenry go. He was one of my closer friends, so that one hurt a little bit. But you know, we all go out of our way to help each other in any way possible. I mean, Russ has been huge for me, and you know, I give a lot of credit to him for the success that I had last year, just from watching him and learning from what he does. And I'm sure Chris Stewart he'll offer the same.
Absolutely. Tony Sanchez, one of the young rising stars for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Oh, yeah, also. Forgot about this one to talk about Chris Stewart, but Major League Baseball is in the process of passing a rule that limits collisions with catchers. What are your thoughts on that? I'm sure you're probably a fan of that.
I hate it. I don't like it at all. You know, I live to make plays at the plate, but now it seems like I can just, you know, block the plate and not give them any. How are you gonna, you know, touch the plate when I got my whole body on it? You know, collisions were a part of the game, and there's ways to get hurt in every aspect, and you know, collision was one of them. But that's what we signed up for. We put our bodies on the line every game, and there's not much you can do about it now. I don't know if it's set in stone yet, but I know they're pretty close to eliminating that. So you know, I don't agree with it, but that's why I don't make the rules.
Yeah, if Tony Sanchez had his way, he'd be making highlight plays with collisions at the plate all the time. That rule will be going to ratification by the owners in January at the winter meetings. Tony Sanchez here, Tony26 Montana. I recommend you follow him on Twitter. Very funny guy. Thank you very much, and good luck next year.
Thank you for having me.
And that was Tony Sanchez letting it go. We want to thank all of the Pittsburgh Pirates for taking some time out to talk to us here at the Big Hit. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to bring our baseball insiders, our Pittsburgh Pirates insiders, down on set and discuss the 2014 season right here on the Big Hit. So stay tuned.
Here at the Big Hit, we like to be prepared because sometimes technology doesn't always work, so we do what we can.
Hey, Sean, hit him up.
This just in, Tim Tebow just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. That's not right.
Maybe we need to prepare just a little more.
And welcome back into the Big Hit. Before the break, we were able to show some of the interviews we were able to obtain with the Pittsburgh Pirates during their caravan stop. Again, want to thank them for that. But now it's time to send it back here into the studio where the dress code is very odd. We've got a T-shirt, a shirt and tie, a jersey, and a polo. I don't know who's in charge here, but something's got to be done. Vaughn Dalzell, Eric Kormos, and Anthony Shear. My name's Josh. So guys, you saw the interviews. What really stood out to you over those 4 interviews?
I gotta say it's Tony Sanchez kind of saying he didn't like the new rule about the collision at home plate. And I think that's probably the same agreement with a lot of catchers now, is that they're probably not liking that rule. I think they feel like what Tony Sanchez felt is, you know, they like the collisions. And I mean, you're going to have injuries like with Buster Posey, but, you know, that's the name of the game, but not anymore. So I think a lot of catchers don't like the new rule. It's going to save their careers, but I think they were all used to having to play that way. So I think that rule is kind of the big thing that stood out with me and what Greg Brown had to say about this being Pittsburgh being a baseball town.
Yeah, I really agree. I like what Greg Brown said about the town. He mentioned the Steelers and the Penguins, how they have such strong fan bases. He went to PNC Park, and then now everyone's getting back into it. And you see yesterday that it was a sold-out crowd, and it's all these blackout crowds. I think that's exactly what the Pirates need.
I'm going to look at Clint Barmas and what they said about him with the veteran leadership. A.J. Burnett's gone, so let's see what he can bring to the table in terms of veteran leadership. He's been with Clint Hurdle for a long time, back in the Colorado days, so let's see what he can bring in terms of that veteran presence.
Yeah, really a lot of interesting topics brought up. Looking at it, I think you're right, Anthony. A lot of catchers really don't like that new rule. Buster Posey doesn't even really like the new rule, and he's one of the main reasons that rule was put in place. But let's look here at this team. Of course, opening day was earlier this week. The Pirates walking off in 10 innings against the Chicago Cubs, 1-0. Neil Walker with a shot to right field, giving the Pirates the walk-off win. Their first walk-off on opening day since 1965. But looking at this team as a whole, which player do you have high hopes for this upcoming season?
I'm going to start with the guy that hit the home run. That's Neil Walker. I mean, Neil Walker to me was the guy that you need to have a better year from him. He was injured last year. You need to have a better year from him. He needs to keep growing in the field. He's in his year of arbitration. I think if they keep doing that and keep improving his game, and Pedro Alvarez and Andrew McCutchen can continue the success they had last year, just having an extra bat like Neil Walker for this first part of the season until maybe some bats from the minors come up, I think that's going to be a big thing going forward. And he needs to be a better fielder, but just needs to stay healthy is the main thing. If he can stay healthy and give them 150 games at second base or even 145, I think that's the big key going forward with this team, is just having that same defense, because we saw with this team yesterday, they're not going to be able to put runs up on the board. It's still going to be a limited offense, and it's going to be relying on that pitching and that defense to keep them in games.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Neil Walker had his postseason play at the end of the year, he played really bad. He wasn't hitting the ball very well, and I definitely think he's going to come up and step up from that. Obviously, we saw yesterday that he stepped up. But I want to see what they really do with first base here with Gabby Sanchez and Travis Ishikawa, because these guys, they wanted to make moves in this offseason and bring in someone new, and they decided just to stick with Gabby. So I definitely want to see what they do with that and which one steps up, which one gets more playing time here.
I'm going to look at Starling Marte. He's going to be in the outfield with McCutchen. The Pirates just rewarded him with a 6-year contract, so they put a lot of faith into him. Let's see what he can do and build off of that 2013 campaign. See if he can get up to maybe 15 to 20 home runs. He was over 40 steals last year. Let's see if he can maybe go up to 45 or 50. See if he can push that envelope a little bit. Because at the top of that order, if you put him in front of McCutchen, you have Alvarez coming up after that. That can be a lethal top of the lineup.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you just have to get something from the top 4 guys on this team, because if you're not going to get any offense, as you mentioned, Vaughn, that first base is a big gap for them, power-wise and consistency-wise, even with the platoon they have.
Absolutely. And another guy you want to watch out for, of course, is Pedro Alvarez in that cleanup spot. If he's going to be able to hit 40-plus home runs, he might play his way out of Pittsburgh, but he's a guy that really needs to deliver in that cleanup spot. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, I do want to preface this by saying there are 3 Pirates fans here on set, and of course Eric is going to act as the voice of reason in this segment, as you could probably tell by the way we are dressed.
They're my second favorite team. Okay, let's be fair. They're number 2. So,
but of course we're all Pirates fans, so we're might be seeing things a bit differently than some, but I just wanted to throw that out there. But looking at this team, one of the best farm systems in all of baseball, who are your prospects heading into this season that you're looking out for?
I'm going to say you have the 2 right off the bat with Gregory Polanco and Jameson Taillon. Those 2 guys to me are the 2 best. They're going to be the 2 guys that come and make an impact this year. You also got a guy like Nick Kigum who can come up later this year and really add depth to that rotation. Keep continuing down the line. You have Wyatt Thompson, who's going to move from catcher to third base. You have Josh Bell. You have guys in this system. They have the 3rd-ranked best system based off of ESPN's Keith Law in the farm system. I think they got to keep growing. Tyler Glasnow's another guy in this system that's going to come up and eventually make moves here in the major leagues. They have depth, and that's the greatest thing. You look at even in the outfield, they have so much depth. Austin Meadows, their first-round pick last year. Reese McGuire, the catcher they drafted last year in the first round with the pick they got back from the Mark Appel non-signing. There's so much depth here in this organization, in the farm system, that if they can let some of these guys go, as Josh mentioned with Pedro Alvarez, if he goes, then you can have one of these guys come up. You have Alan Hansen, too. I mean, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. These guys, it's just a year after year after year for the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to see 3 or 4 guys come up, and that's where the big success is going to come from, is this farm system, because you're not going to be able to compete with teams like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Mets giving these high-priced contracts out.
Yeah, their farm system's just been so great these past couple of years, and it's so many talents coming up, and I love Polanco. I'm such a big fan of him because in spring training, you heard Marte and McCutcheon saying this guy's the real deal, 6'4", 220, long, fast, can hit the ball. I was really hoping they would bring him up, but they do want to get him more at bats, and I do agree with that. But I like Meadows too because I want to see what they're going to do with the other outfield spot because they said they're talking about Tabata on the trade block, so I definitely want to see what they do with that. But I like Jameson too because our pitching rotation is just so solid that if we can bring more people up and get them ready, so when they come up they're already MLB ready like Garrett Cole was last year, then that's just outstanding for us. It's just going to be able to keep teams from getting 0 runs like we did the other day.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach to this. I'm going to go with 2 prospects that can help the Pirates this season. One is Brandon Crumpton, the starting pitcher. He's in Indianapolis right now. But when you look at that rotation, you say it's solid, but there's a lot of question marks there. Jeff Locke fell apart in the second half last year. Wandy Rodriguez, he's 35 years old with an arthritic elbow. Not a good combination for durability, so you can't count on him getting 30 starts this year. And also, we talked a little bit about the first base situation. Andrew Lambeau struggled. He's back in AAA. If he can get it together down there and come up and provide some consistency at the first base position, that'll really help the Pirates moving forward because let's face it, that's a huge hole that they have, not only in their lineup. Ishikawa's got a decent glove, but let's not forget, he's been released by 4 other teams. So 4 other teams have passed on him. What's that tell you? He's not going to be the long-term solution.
Yeah, I mean, he made a play yesterday. They picked off Bonifacio, and he dropped the ball from Liriano. So that just one hiccup right there. I mean, it didn't cost him a run. But I think, going off what you two said, I agree that those guys, Lambeau especially, if he can get it going, can come up here and play first base consistently, is going to be really good for this team. And I just think down the road they need to find somebody to really play that position. I mean, you look at the top 20 prospects in their organization, there's not one person that plays first base, and that's really where the hole is. And I mean, they're talked about bringing Kendry Morales in from Seattle, but they don't want to give up the first-round draft pick. And when you're a team like that, you want to pay $14 million for a guy who's only going to be here for a year, and you're not going to get the ideal game out of him. Or do you keep it in the minors with Andrew Lambeau and be on the cheap and someone you can keep control of?
Well, what they're going to have to do eventually is they're going to have to just bite the bullet, and they're going to have to make a trade because they're not going to go out and get a big free agent splash. For instance, Arizona went out last offseason. They picked up Mark Trumbo. That's the type of move that the Pirates need to make to solidify that first base position. You have Alvarez at third base, big power hitter, big bat, strikes out a lot, but he provides the power. You need somebody at first base to complement that.
I mean, potentially down the road, what they could do is they could move Pedro over to first, and if Hansen doesn't work out at shortstop or second, is put him over at third and let him work out there. Then you put the power bat over at first base. But then you're really weakening the depth in your organization at the shortstop and the second base level because after that, there's really no anybody else. So I think there are places where they can move pieces. Like you mentioned, Austin Meadows. I love him. But when you have Meadows and Bell and you have Polanco and you already have McCutcheon under a long-term deal, you just signed Marte under a long-term deal. You mentioned, Vaughn, how they want to get rid of Jose Tabata. The fact of the matter is that you can only play 3 outfielders. You need to use these guys as potential trade chips to get guys either add depth to your organization or guys who can play in the majors. And I think that's the big key right there is can you find guys that can play shortstop and play second base because up the middle is the most important part of the baseball field.
Absolutely, and I think one of the main guys that really needs to step up for the Pirates to make a big run this year is Andrew Lambeau at first base because Travis Ishikawa is a guy that played 1 game for the Yankees last year and was cut that same day. Not the best pedigree, 7 games he played all of last season. I don't know if he's going to be the answer at first base, but the best thing about the Pirates farm system is that they have guys that are ready now, and they have a good pool of players who are going to be ready in a couple years. So every year, like Anthony said, there's going to be a couple new guys coming up on this team. Gregory Polanco is a guy that can, if they can lock him up and he lives up to what he can be, one of the best outfields in baseball, which is really impressive. Add to that, one of the best bullpens in baseball, so they are really looking good, the Pittsburgh Pirates are. But of course, every season you're going to add a couple players and you're going to lose some key pieces as well. Who would you say the biggest loss of this offseason was for the Pirates?
I think A.J. Burnett probably was because, like Eric touched on earlier, Wandy Rodriguez is 35 years old and his elbow might not hold up. And Burnett was pretty solid last year for us. He was probably one of our best pitchers. So that was a big thing that he left, but I know the Pirates weren't going to pay that much money for him that the Phillies did because the Pirates usually don't pay all that much. But you could also go with Garrett Jones or Marlon Boyd, these guys that were like guys that could go yard, guys that had good averages, guys could hit. And that's what we lack right now, sort of. So I think that these guys need to be replaced somehow. And it's going to be key because I think our pitching rotation will still be fine, will still be not as good as it was last year, but still above average, above other teams. So I think the hitting is the biggest thing the Pirates need to touch on right now, and that'll be the hardest thing to replace with those guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with what you said about AJ Burnett. You look at what he did with the veteran leadership, but don't forget he's a World Series champion. Yeah. So he's somebody that when he's in the locker room, he's speaking to the players and telling them what needs to be done to get to the postseason, to get to the World Series. He knows what he's talking about. He can show off the ring. All right. Garrett Jones is a loss too, but that's kind of that platoon situation they've had going on. Gabby Sanchez now, Ishikawa. Pittsburgh's kind of gone that route instead of getting the one big stud at first base. But I got to go with Burnett just because he was the glue that held that pitching staff together last year, pitched late in the games, saved the arms in the bullpen as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back and also how he does for the Phillies.
I'm going to actually go with Justin Morneau because we've talked about it a lot about this first base platoon that they're having right now. And you had a guy in Justin Morneau, and they picked him up from the Twins that really solidified that. Granted, maybe the production wasn't there, what you wanted to see as a Pirate fan, but from the word go, you knew who your first baseman was, and that was Justin Morneau. And I think if they had brought him back, he's playing in Colorado now. If they had brought him back, I think you look at that lineup, that's even a more dangerous lineup if you add someone like him, because I think that would have gave him more time to adjust to playing in the National League, adjust to playing in PNC Park. And I think that would have added more to this offense. And I think losing Burnett is key because it does put more strain on your bullpen and maybe on another younger pitcher. But I think having that bat in Morneau is just, it's a huge loss because you're going to be able to place Marlon Byrd with what you have in the outfield. But replacing a guy like Justin Morneau at a very big position like first base is just going to hurt this team down the road.
And a veteran leader, too. Don't forget he's been around for a very long time and been through a lot of different things in his career. He's seen the ups and the downs. And he's bounced back now, so he's exactly like you said. He would provide stability at that first base position.
Yeah, and you have to feel like Justin Morneau is really due for a breakout season in Colorado. Of course, those home run numbers should inflate. But quickly as we run low on time, guys, A.J. Burnett was, of course, a big veteran presence on this team the last 2 years. But who's going to have to step up and kind of fill his role that he's going to leave now that he's in Philadelphia?
I like Garrett Colton's situation. He's very young, outstanding player, 23 years old. He has a lot of time to be a great pitcher. And right now he's fourth in the rotation. I think he can move up ahead of Wandy here, especially because Wandy's a lot older. And I could just see him being the next great pitcher for us because we already know Liriano is proven. Jeff Locke's good. He can't fall apart like he did last year, like you touched on earlier. So I think Cole's the guy that can step up and make a big difference for us. And I know last year in his first debut, I was at the game, and he got a nice hit his first time. And if you get a pitcher that could actually hit a single once in a while, then that's a plus.
I'm going to go with Andrew McCutchen. I know that sounds like a silly choice coming off of an MVP season, but he's the face of this franchise. He has a long-term deal. They gave him big money. He's not only the face of the franchise, but he's one of those guys that MLB is pushing. So I look for him to step into that role and embrace it. Pirate Nation looks to him for leadership. He's got to back it up this year.
I'm going to go with Russell Martin at catcher. You need to stabilize that pitching staff. He did a great job last year. If he can continue that with the guys they're going to have come up this year, that could just add another step into building a potential World Series team down the road.
Yeah, and Russell Martin, another guy in the last year of his contract. But very quickly, guys, no need for an explanation. What is your projected win total for the Pittsburgh Pirates this year?
The 90-92 range.
I'm going to say 94-95.
I'm going to go 80 to 82. So I just don't see that pitching staff holding up for 162 games.
Yeah, we've seen it from all sides, as much as 90 wins, as low as 75, 77 wins from some people. So it's really, the jury's out on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Great to have baseball back. Opening day, the Pittsburgh Pirates walking off. Great way to start the season. The Pirates preview, ladies and gentlemen, for Vaughn Dalzell, Eric Kormos, Anthony Shear. My name is Josh Hill. Coming up after the break, we're going to go into the penalty box as the push to the playoffs in the National Hockey League continues, so stay tuned.
How are we going to watch this when you are just in La La Land? This is embarrassing.
Is that bad?
Look at you.
You know, I thought this was a pretty good segment.
Did you?
Yeah.
Do you even know what they're saying?
No.
You're putting your foot up on set. Do you just think this is a couch? This is embarrassing. I mean, even here, you're starting to interrogate somebody. Look at you. Turn your back to the camera. That's embarrassing. Where's your suit and tie? You have a Pirates shirt on.
They made the playoffs.
I don't care. You can't be biased. This is ridiculous.
And welcome back to the Big Hit, ladies and gentlemen. It is our penalty box segment. We're here in the penalty box. A little chilly here in the studio. It's time to talk some hockey as the push to the playoffs approaches, joined by Mike Gosnell and Ben Snyder, of course. Two graphic connoisseurs, if I do say so myself. Gentlemen, let's just jump right in as the push to the playoffs is quickly approaching. with the Boston Bruins because they are dominating the Eastern Conference right now, playing their best hockey of the season at the right time too. Is there anybody in the Eastern Conference that's going to be able to stop the Bruins from reaching their ultimate goal, of course, that being the Stanley Cup Finals?
Well, the Boston Bruins are one of the teams that, looking back on all my years of watching hockey, this is the best team that I've seen so far. I mean, this team is a 4-line hockey team. They'll beat you with line 1 and line 4. I mean, they're a complete hockey team. And looking at this Eastern Conference, the teams that are currently in the playoffs, I really don't see a team that can really match the Boston Bruins all 4 lines. But if I had to guess one, it would be Pittsburgh, only because they have the skill to match the Boston Bruins. Not necessarily the goaltending and not necessarily the defense, because I don't think anybody can beat out the Bruins when it comes to goaltending and defense, except for maybe the team like the New York Rangers, who have a very good defensive core and a goaltending tandem. But for those of you, if you didn't catch the Boston Bruins versus Philadelphia Flyers game, that was an excellent game played by Tuukka Rask. 50 shots faced, giving up only 2. Probably will win the Vezina Trophy. I just don't see a team really other than Pittsburgh, but even that's a long shot right now. I don't see a team that can really match the power of the Boston Bruins with all 4 lines going, all 3 defensive pairs going. When you have Tuukka Rask in net, you're always almost guaranteed to win every night.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The Bruins are a sound team. They have 10 players on the roster with at least 30 points right now, which is a lot more than what other teams can say. Pittsburgh, for instance, has, I think, maybe 6 or 7 players with more than 30 points, if that. The rest are in the low 10s. And then we have players like Joe McGinley, who won the one of the Stars of the Week in the past month of March, backed up by forward Patrice Bergeron, who is on a 7-game goal streak right now, who is probably going to be in the runnings for the Selke Trophy, which is the NHL's best defensive forward position. And then there's Zdeno Chara, who is Chara. He's the biggest defenseman in the NHL, and he'll probably also be up for the Norris Trophy, which is the Defenseman of the Year. Backed by Tuukka Rask, has a save percentage of .931, a goals against average of 2.02, and he has 7 shutouts, which is leading the league. He should be in the running for the Vezina Trophy, which is the NHL's best goaltender. As for the teams that I can see maybe giving Boston a run for their money, I'm going to give it to Pittsburgh. They might win if they can make it there. But I'm going to also say maybe Montreal, because Montreal has been known to give Boston problems during the season. They won 3 of the 4 games this season, and Montreal always gets up to play for them.
Absolutely, and Goose, you talked about the Philadelphia and Boston game earlier this weekend. That was Boston's 9th straight win on the road. If you're able to win on the road in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's really going to be tough to knock out any team, especially with the core they have. All 3 phases, goaltending, defense, offense, they have it all. Really the quintessential team in the Eastern Conference. But with the new conference realignment, of course, the wild card race really beginning to heat up here, coming down to the wire. In the East, currently, as it stands right now, Detroit and Columbus hold the 2 wild card spots. And in the West, it's Minnesota and Phoenix who have the 2 wild card spots. Are these 2 teams going to get these wild card spots, or will somebody outside, a team like Washington, Toronto, Dallas, Vancouver, of course, naming teams of both conferences, take one of those spots away?
Well, in the East, I think this is really a no-brainer. I think both teams that are currently in the wild card positions make it. I think Detroit is going to be a very dangerous team come playoff time. And that's responsible by Gustav Nyquist. Very tricky name. Gustav Nyquist. He's going to be the best player to come out of the University of Maine since Paul Kariya. Of course, Paul Kariya, a lengthy career with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Unfortunately, did not win a Stanley Cup. Probably one of the greatest players of all time, never win a Stanley Cup. But Nyquist, 12 goals, 6 assists in the month of March. He's absolutely lit it up for the Red Wings. Mike Babcock is quite a special player in his hands. The only real question mark with Detroit is their goaltending. Jimmy Howard having a very inconsistent season, proving that maybe he's not worth all that money that Detroit gave him. But then you look at Columbus, a team that you can't count out of a game because of their speed and their youth. Ryan Johansson single-handedly having a very special season, almost carrying that team on its back other than Sergei Bobrovsky. Probably one of the more impressive players that have only played, 3 seasons in the NHL. I don't see Washington really competing for that. I don't believe in their defense. I don't believe in Alex Ovechkin when it comes to crunch time play. I don't see them making the playoffs. And going out west, I think it also stands pat when you look at Minnesota and Phoenix. Minnesota, too good for the teams, too good for Dallas. And Phoenix, it's going to be close. I like the makeup of that Phoenix Coyotes team: Shane Doan, Oliver Ekman Larson, Marty Erat, Mike Smith. I think Mike Smith, if he can bounce back from the injury that happened against the Rangers, I don't see why Phoenix couldn't make it. I'm probably the only one in the world that has the standing pat right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that the 4 teams that you have there are just too good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you mostly in that one, Goose. Minnesota, I'm going to start in the West first of all. Minnesota, they have 89 points, good enough for the first wild card spot. They're 5 ahead of Phoenix. In the Eastern Conference, they would probably have a 2nd or 3rd seed in one of the divisions, probably in the Metropolitan Division because it's a bad division. And to get out of the playoff picture, they'd have to basically lose out all their 6 remaining games. But for Phoenix, Phoenix has 7 games left to play, trailing 1 point ahead of Dallas, who has a game in hand of them. So Dallas has to win a couple of games to make it into the playoff picture. And I feel like Phoenix and Dallas play 1 game at the end of the season together. I think that's going to be a win and end game for this season to make the playoffs in the wild card spot. Going over to the East is a different story. 4 teams have a good chance to get into the playoff picture. Detroit, and Columbus both have a playoff spot right now, but they aren't locks. The Blue Jackets play 3 games in 4 nights against playoff teams this week and could lose out on those games, which leaves Washington an opportunity to leapfrog them if they just play decent hockey, 50 or 500 hockey, and not lose too much. I don't think Washington has it in them to win out and make playoffs like that. But if if Columbus doesn't have it in them to win these games, Washington could make it in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Ben, you really touched on the discrepancies of the conferences. A lot of good teams in the West, probably about 5 or 6 really solid teams in the West. In the East, not as much, maybe 2 or 3 really quality teams. And Goose, you might want to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Detroit's looking to make the playoffs for the 23rd straight year.
23rd straight year.
I think
and like I said on the Out of Bounds podcast yesterday, I just don't see a Toronto or a Washington even coming close. Toronto's losers of 8 straight, and Washington has a very lackluster defense. So it could happen, but in my opinion, it's unlikely. I think Detroit will continue their playoff dominance, their playoff streak dominance.
And Goose, you kind of hit the nail right on the head for this next question. Out of the teams that are currently in the wild card spot, that of course talking about Detroit, Columbus, Minnesota, and Phoenix, who has the best chance of making a nice run into the playoffs this year?
I think I'll stick with Detroit. You can't count out the Detroit Red Wings in the playoffs, 11-time Stanley Cup champions. It's just astounding what this team can do when they get into the postseason. Mike Babcock, the perfect playoff coach. He knows how to coach up his guys, coached Team Canada to a gold medal twice. Perfect guy behind the bench. And you have leadership that is returning. Pavel Datsyuk may come back for the final week of the season. Henrik Zetterberg could come back for the first round of the playoffs. They can get those 2 guys in. I don't see any reason why they can't compete for a deep run, especially with Gustav Nyquist, Tomas Tatar, Daniel Alfredsson, Stephen Weiss if he can get healthy. It all falls back on Jimmy Howard and the defense. If they can't maintain pressure and keep pucks out of their own zone and own net, it's not going to be pretty for them, especially if they match up with the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is what is currently projected right now. So I'm going to pick Detroit. I don't see any other team that could really is playing that great of hockey right now. Like Detroit, it all falls back on goaltending, though.
I agree with you completely in that one, Goose. Detroit has the talent to make a series against the Penguins. It's the old-fashioned Bylsma versus Babcock Olympic rematch, and we all know how that turned out for Team Canada and Team US. Pavel Datsyuk could return for this playoff series. He's been out of the game for a while with an injury. I don't think Zetterberg will return, but at least with the return of Pavel Datsyuk, that means so much for Detroit. And Detroit's been giving Pittsburgh problems this season. They took 1 game at least against them most recently last month, and it wasn't a very good game for the Penguins at all. They didn't play their game, and they lost pretty soundly to Detroit. I'm not going to take anything else for Boston, for the other team, because Boston's going to win the first round easily. Same with the Western Conference team. St. Louis, they're going to win that game against whoever they play. Same with San Jose or Anaheim. I think Detroit is the team that might make a deep run in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens.
Both of you on Detroit, and I think, am one of many who thought Detroit wasn't going to be able to do this with the rash of injuries they sustained. A lot of key players. Another team that comes to mind in terms of injuries is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Those two teams have really been decimated, star players being out for a long period of time. But Jimmy Howard, to your point, is starting to kind of come around. He's been in and out. He's been inconsistent. He's starting to play to his ability. But let's expand our view a little bit to the entire playoff picture. Which team currently in the playoffs is the biggest pretender at this point?
Well, for me, it's a team that is in third place in the Eastern Conference, has played well all season, but I don't like what they've been doing with their bottom six play. That's the Montreal Canadiens. Carey Price has been spotty at best since coming back from the Olympic break, but I'm going to focus on their bottom six. Not really that strong when you look at players like Ryan White, Travis Moan, Louis LeBlanc, David Desharnais. They're not the strongest players, and they're really unproven when it comes to playoffs, except for Travis Moan, who's won a Stanley Cup. For me in the playoffs, you roll all four lines. You have to have good top six play with good bottom six play. Carey Price has not been a fantastic playoff goaltender. The defense, a little lacking. I do like Markov, Subban, and Emelin, but when you get past those three, I think it lacks in certain aspects like offensive capability, play under pressure. The Montreal Canadiens are not a good team when it comes to when teams forecheck hard and they're in their own zone. They usually turn the puck over a lot. PK Subban's known for his erratic play. I'm not trusting Montreal Canadiens, especially if they're going to be matched up with the Tampa Bay Lightning or another team like the Tampa Bay Lightning or possibly even the Philadelphia Flyers. I think if you play physical with the Montreal Canadiens, I think all bets are off with them. I'm not confident in them even to make it out of the first round.
Well, I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, but I think right now they could be looking as a pretender for the playoffs. There are so many questions going into this postseason, starting with, first of all, goaltending. Marc-Andre Fleury has not had the greatest postseason record as of the past 2 or 3 seasons. He got lit up against Philadelphia, and he barely played a game in the past 3 rounds in the last year's playoffs after the New York Islanders lit him up and got pulled in the first game. Second question is the injury factor. Evgeny Malkin, Paul Martin, Crystal Tang, and Marcel Gottsch are all out of the lineup right now, with Paul Martin returning to the practice at least, and maybe returning to the game lineup either Thursday or this weekend games. Crystal Tang has been cleared to practice. He's practicing right now, but there's no way to tell if he's going to come back in this season and play in the playoffs. And Evgeny Malkin is slated to come back in the playoffs, but you know how injuries go and how things can be re-aggravated. Look at Bo Bennett, for instance. He should have came back a long time ago, probably in January or even after the Olympics, but he just came back for his second or third game right now, tonight. Third of all is the bottom six. Penguins' bottom six is not good. They're just lacking in scoring. I mean, they can hit players, but they just can't shut down the best players in the league. But with the return of the injured players, Malkin and maybe Marcel Gottsch, because he might be back, might be able to shift the players around to the lower lines and help them out when scoring. And lastly is the coach. Dan Bylsma has been known to be considered out-coached against Philadelphia in 2012?
Yes.
2012. And against Claude Julien and the Bruins in 2013. And even against Guy Boucher against the Tampa Bay Lightning 3 years ago. He doesn't seem to follow his own idea of getting to their game and just grinding players down. This is the playoffs. You can't stick to one mindset. If things aren't going well for you, you have to change. Dump the puck in deep or just start carrying more help on the forecheck. If these players don't listen to their coach also, if you tune out the coach, look what happened in New York Rangers. They fired John Tortorella and he went to Vancouver, trading places with Alain Vigneault with Vancouver's now playing for the Rangers. But yeah, I believe that Pittsburgh, unless they change their ideals and show that they're ready to play playoffs, they're going to lose in probably the second or third round.
So that's all the time we have here as the push to the playoff continues. Want to thank our bearded wonders, graphics connoisseurs, whatever you want to call them. These guys know hockey. Mike Gosnell, Ben Snyder. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, because coming up after this commercial break, Sean P. McCarthy, the Charless Person of the Week, and the 2-Minute Drill. We'll be right back.
Personal foul? Inactive activities on a glorious day. Huh? Let's get out there and play!
Sweet.
Ooh, freeze!
When do I get to be in? Uh-oh.
Hey, Reggie, frozen people can't talk.
PLA!
An hour a day.
I'm it. There are lots of great play ideas online, but don't stay too long.
Hello everybody and welcome back to The Big Hit. This is a 2-minute drill and I am Sean P. McCarthy. Opening day has officially come and baseball season's underway. Fresh cut grass at PNC Park radiated through the crowd as the Pirates defeated the Cubs 1-0 thanks to Pittsburgh native and Pine Richland High School graduate Neil Walker. With his walk-off home run in the 10th inning clearing the Roberto Clemente wall in right field, it's good to see O'Neal started off with the walk-off considering his abysmal hitting performance in the NLDS last postseason, where he did not even record a single hit in his 21 plate appearances during the series against the St. Louis Cardinals. As expected, the Philadelphia Eagles released Deshaun Jackson, and the Washington Redskins have emerged as a front-runner to acquire the Pro Bowl receiver. This comes after the Redskins have signed one of the hardest-hitting safeties in the league and former Steeler, Ryan Clark. If Jackson does sign with Washington, they just might be the leaders in the NFC East this upcoming season, as they'll be one of the most well-rounded and put-together teams. Let's move on to everyone's favorite award, the Churlish Person of the Week award. This Churlish Person of the Week is NBC's hockey analyst Mike Milbury for his overdramatic and slanderous comments towards Brooks Orpik of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Orpik laid a hard but clean hit on Blackhawks captain Jonathan Toews, at which Toews injured his shoulder on. During intermission, Milbury lost his cool and wrongfully saying it was a dirty hit in which the Blackhawks should take retribution for. This is coming from the guy who jumped into the crowd during his playing days and beat a guy in the stands with his own shoe. Mike Milbury, injuries happen in hockey. It's unfortunate that this one in particular happened to a star player, but not every hit is dirty. You are churlish. And I'm happy to announce that the IUP inline hockey team, in which I am a proud member of, are in the middle of a championship game series against rival Slippery Rock. My fellow teammates and I defeated SRU in Game 1 of a best-of-3 series in a dramatic 8-7 overtime victory after trailing by 3 goals at one point. Game 2 will be this Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. at the Robert Morris Island Sports Center, where the Crimson Hawks will try and cap off an already amazing season. That's all the time we have for today here at the Big Hit family. For Leberly, producers Dan Wallace and Dimitri George, I'm Sean P. McCarthy. Don't be churlish. Keep it fresh.